Hey everyone, it's Marc de Bruin again with another little video installment for simplifyinglife.com.au. Hey, today I want to talk to you about emotions, and not in a very long way, but just something that came up in a session today with a client, which is actually quite interesting. We were talking about the idea of experiencing emotions and how you experience them yourself, and he said, look, I've got trouble doing that. It was one of the questions he actually asked me. I didn't broach the topic, he did. He said, I'm having trouble identifying what types of emotions I'm actually experiencing. He said, well, how so? And he explained to me that he lost his father. I think it was his father or someone dear not too long ago. He said, I don't know how I'm supposed to experience sadness or how to know that I'm actually sad. It's like I don't cry much. I don't know how that feels. And some of his family members actually were a bit worried about him. He said, well, something wrong with you? It's like it doesn't seem to do you much. You're not crying, you're not expressing. And he said, I don't know how it feels. So we launched into a discussion about, well, what are emotions? And when you look at the mindfulness integrated CBT way, that's the modality that I was trained in specifically. When you look at emotions, they are the physical expression of your thoughts that you have about a particular situation. Now, that sounds a bit academic. But what I mean with that is, like, if there is something going on, then you're observing that through your senses, obviously, but you have ideas about that. It's a good thing or it's a bad thing. Now, the thoughts that you have about that particular situation will elicit particular body sensations. And I've talked about that before. If you can't feel your body, if there's something not completely right in your brain whereby you can't feel any body sensations, it would be, research suggests, impossible for you to feel any emotion at all, because brain and body actually work together. So we need the both in order to have an emotional experience. So facts, ideas about facts, they elicit a particular physical response. And then we call that in psychology and counseling, we call that the emotion, the energy in motion. So it's a physical awareness of something that then leads to a label that we stick on that, and we call that the feeling. So, simple example, if I'm looking at something that actually I don't like and I don't want to be there and I want to get out of there, and all of a sudden my body starts to heat up and my muscles start to tremble a little bit, then I could call that anxiety. I could stick that label on that. That's the feeling based on what my body is experiencing. Or if I'm in a discussion with someone, I'm not liking the discussion, I think that other person is wrong, so that's my thoughts, then I might again get warm. I might feel a bit pressured, I might have all sorts of sensations in my stomach, in my chest, and I might call that anger or frustration. So it's the label that I stick on that particular body sensations. Now, here's where that became important for this young chap. He said, I don't know what I'm feeling. I know the labels, sadness, anger, excitement, joy, frustration, you mentioned them. But he said, I'm not always sure, and in this case, sadness, how that feels. What is that? How do I recognize something to be sadness? And what we talked about, and that's the tip of the day, if you will, is like if you got sometimes trouble with finding out what a particular emotion feels like, the easy way to start getting back in touch with that is just tune into your body. Tune in. There are a number of elements to bodily experiences that you can describe, that you can be aware of, that if you're doing well, it could help you stick a particular sensation to a particular label, or the other way around, whichever way you want to look at it. So if you're finding yourself in a position where your body feels hot or cold, or it feels heavy or light, it feels loose or dense, or there seems to be some sort of movement, whether it's blood movement or energy movement, whatever you call it, you can use those combinations to describe whatever it is that you're feeling, and that is actually the emotion, the energy in motion. Whatever label you stick on there doesn't really matter, but use that to get back in touch with whatever that emotion is. So a real simple example is depression. For instance, if you're depressed, you might say, look, I feel depressed, but what does depression feel like? Well, there seems to be some universal truth in that depression sometimes feels heavy. It seems to have some sort of weight to it. It feels like you're under pressure. So there's some weight to it. It often feels cold, as if there's some sort of cold or lukewarm temperature to it. Movement, potentially you could feel some energy, slow energy flow, or hardly any energy flow. And you could relate that back to what you call depression. So every feeling, the label that we stick on something, seems to have an emotional E-motion signature. Every feeling seems to have a particular signature that we use. And there's an interesting video by Dr. Alan Watkins, and he's a neuroscientist. I'll put the link in the YouTube description underneath. And he talks about the fact that there's about 34,000 different emotions in different clusters and in different groups. About 34,000, that's a lot, different emotions that we could experience. And it will be impossible to keep them all separate. He's got a pretty funky app where you can walk through his whole universe of emotions. It's actually quite cool. But the idea is, like, if you find yourself having trouble to identify a particular emotion or to identify a particular feeling, get back into the physical sensation of it, because that's probably where the answer lies. So the descriptors that you will be looking for, if you're looking for the energy emotion, the emotion, are temperature, hot, cold, somewhere in between, weight, heavy, light, somewhere in between, motion, moving, still, somewhere in between. It could be any type of movement. And density, so dense, fairly thick, dense, or very loose, very fluffy, if you will. From neurolinguistic programming, you can chuck another bunch on top. Color, for instance, can you describe that feeling with a color or that emotion with a color? Is there a size to it? Is it big? Is it small? Is there a shape to it? Does it have a particular shape in your body? And the location, where does it sit? Is there a particular location where that particular emotion comes out, where you feel that? Many people recognize anger sometimes to be sitting in their stomach. It feels like a stomach churning or something like that. So keep that in mind. If you ever have problems finding out what a particular feeling, the label that we stick on stuff, feels like in terms of emotion, the energy emotion, start tapping into the descriptors of that particular emotion, of that particular physical sensation. And then you can start to build a bridge between what it is that your body is actually sensing and how you are labeling that. And that leads us to becoming more in contact with our own emotions, which actually allows us to process them a lot better, especially the negative ones. But it gives you a more whole idea about how our bodies are actually operating as well, and can put a lot of things into context. Even if you feel something weird and you don't know how to describe it, just tapping into the body side of stuff without labeling it could often be enough from a mindfulness point of view to work through that emotion. So I hope that's useful. As always, if you've got questions, you know where to find me: YouTube, email, Facebook, wherever. And hope you enjoy your weekend. Speak soon.